Good afternoon, everybody. Today I would like to talk a little bit more about the observations that we have made at Solarisbank over the last 3.5 years that we have been live. So we're still very young. Solarisbank is a white label bank, which means we have a banking license out of Germany, but we don't have any front end, and we don't want to have any end customer interaction. We don't care about that. We want our partners to care about that. But before I talk about that, I want to quickly zoom out and talk a bit more about what we have been observing, and that is that a lot of companies and a lot of industries have been moving into contextual banking. Now, what is contextual banking? Another buzzword. So contextual banking is to seamlessly integrate financial products into the end-to-end customer journey. Because, and this might not be the best crowd to say this to, but banking products themselves are not very sexy. Right? They don't necessarily fulfill the end goal that the customer has. So an end customer doesn't really care about sending money or applying for a loan. And a bank might see it as sending money, but a customer sees it as paying rent. A bank might see it as applying or approving a loan, but the customer thinks, yes, I can finally buy that car. And that is where there has always been a slight mismatch between banks and end customers. And therefore, you see that there's an opportunity there for non-banks, especially digital companies that are looking into how can we add more value to our ecosystem by integrating financial solutions. Apple with Apple Card, Uber with their accounts and cards for the drivers. And they see those benefits because there's three main reasons for this. There's an increase of revenue for them because it allows them to add monthly subscriptions. It is an increase of loyalty and customer stickiness because they are extending their ecosystem. And of course, as we already talked about, they know how to talk and how to interact with that data. Because how awesome is it if you understand where is my customer spending his hard-earned cash? And that is something where you can then obviously make a profile around your customer and really understand what the next product you should be bringing to that customer. So that is one thing that non-banks and digital companies and fintechs all want to come into the financial sector, but as they don't have a license, how are they going to go to market? Because they don't want to set up operations, they don't want to have a slow time to market. And this is exactly why Solarisbank came into the picture, because we very much believe in offering those solutions, basically giving our license to those companies one way or the other. And how we have done that is we have built several different products that you will see here in the yellow layer. And of course, we have there made the decision, should we buy that or should we make that ourselves? Because you don't need to make everything yourself. There is specialists out there that can do this probably better than you can. And then we make those APIs available. We make them available to banks, corporates, big techs, fintechs, anybody that has an interest in those solutions. So it's literally any company in the world that wants to offer financial products can come to us and act like a bank, whether that's for loans, whether that's for cards, whether that's for payment orchestration, all those things are going to be possible. And this is then, in the purple layer, where the magic happens. This is where they add their value. This is where it's being put in the ecosystem, where they really start to make the product come to life. And then it's offered to the product or to the market for end customers or for SMEs. And we thought to ourselves, how do we want to structure those products? Do we want to offer a full suite? Probably not, because that doesn't make a lot of sense. So our APIs have been made very, very granular, because we knew we were never going to be as creative as our partners would be. So why not just give them all the ingredients so that they can themselves figure out what they want? What that means is they can come to us and say, well, I want your KYC solution, or I just want your cards, or just your accounts, or the combination of all of that. And that allows them, of course, to really fine-tune it to exactly what they need without having that whole big mammoth of a bank and the operations and the risk management and compliance and everything else that comes with that. And of course, the analogy here could be, why would you buy a cow if you only want a glass of milk? So that is what we have been focusing on quite a bit. The different products that we have been offering right now to different partners is a digital KYC solution on the one hand, both for individuals and SMEs. It is bank account openings and cards. So really allowing companies to act as a neobank or become a neobank themselves. It is payments, not so much acquiring business, but more payment orchestration, pooling accounts, virtual IBANs, regulation elements. It is lending, where there's many different elements possible, from regular installment loans to factoring, and you name it. And then lastly, since last year, we have built our blockchain factory, where we are bridging the gap between the crypto and the fiat worlds to allow crypto companies to engage more in those financial services and get them out of that niche market and more into the mainstream. We've been also quite lucky, because we have a couple really, really cool investors that really has helped us to open doors and to give us some of the expertise. BBVA, Visa, ABN AMRO, SBI. So they've gave us quite some nice money to get working on. And we do that with roughly right now 280 people, all based in Berlin. And most of them are tech guys, because we don't need to have too many compliance people, because everything is automated. We don't have too many customer support people, because that's all pushed to our partners, where they want to interact with the end customer anyway. And we do that with roughly 70 different companies, from fintechs to banks to digital companies. And that's all nice, but that's still a bit of the theory. So I brought with me 3 different examples of, on the one hand, 2 banks, and on the other hand, a completely different company that have worked with us in different ways to speed up their way in going to the market. So the first example, a Turkish bank, or a Bahraini bank, but they also have a big Turkish subsidiary, Al Baraka. They saw that there was a big community of Turkish people in Europe, especially in Germany, and they said, we want to be able to target the community and follow that diaspora that we are so used to with Islamic banking. But the problem that we are having as Al Baraka, we don't have a European banking license, so we cannot target them right now. If we would get a European banking license, it takes a long time, at least a year, to get that done. Plus, we need to make a lot of changes that would just slow us down quite a bit. So they came to us and they said, Solarisbank, are you guys able to help us to really quickly test if this product actually is working without having to invest millions and millions of euros into this? They wanted to have a customer-centric approach, and this is where the contextual elements come in. So they are what you could call an Islamic app with Islamic financing in there. So in that app is all kinds of religious elements. There's a mosque finder. There is all kinds of all those other things which the community cares about a lot. And then all of a sudden, because that neobank is talking the same values and talking the same language as you as the community are, or the bank is, then all of a sudden there's a value there. And all of a sudden, customers are willing to pay that 1, 2, or 3 euros per month. And then you don't have to become the N26 to give everything just for free because the end customer doesn't want to pay. You just have to find the right angle and find the right niche of how to engage with that customer and how to make yourself more valuable and relevant. So literally, in 6 months, meaning from the first talks that we had to the first production key, 6 months. That was all it took for them to be able to go live in a completely different environment where they had no idea about the regulation and the compliance. But still, because they were just able to connect to our systems, it took them only 6 months to do this. Second example, another neobank. These are young guys that came to us and they said, we believe there is a need for a more green and more sustainable bank in Germany, where customers on a daily basis can donate funds, or just by them using the app, take part in clean water projects, in forest preservation. But they themselves had no idea about what banking all means. They didn't have a license. They were very small because they were just a startup, so they didn't have a lot of funds. They didn't have the big tech team to build it up. So they came to us and they said, okay, can you help us, guide us on how to set this up? And can we use your services to get this done? So that they can keep focusing on those other elements, those other projects that they have cared about, and they have just integrated finance as one piece of that bigger vision. The funny story about those guys is that before they set this up, and I'm not kidding, and with all the respect to them, they were lemonade salesmen. So if even lemonade salesmen are able to do this kind of things, that means that the competition that you will be seeing as banks is going to come from everywhere, because it's going to be so much easier to set up a bank or to act as a bank and to interact with that customer. So they are now in Germany only, but they are slowly growing out into the other countries of the European Economic Area, because that is something that we can do with our European or our German banking license, of course. And the third example, or before I go to the third example, the funny thing is that those two examples are using the exact same APIs. So we don't care, and from our point of view, it is exactly the same. But for them and how they have added the value, it's a completely different product. It's a completely different interaction. It's a completely different proposition that's on the market. But for us, it's all the same. And that makes it so scalable and so easy to use. The last example that I have is the collaboration that we had with ABN AMRO, or still have with ABN AMRO. ABN AMRO has a retail brand called MoneyU. And they said, we want to go to the German market because we believe the consumer loans that are there in the German market are a lot more attractive than what we have right now in the Netherlands. But we're not so sure if we want to invest all that money. We're not so sure if the business case actually works. And we don't want to build up those scorecards because we don't have data. We don't know how to do all of this. Solarisbank, can you help? So we already had a consumer loan proposition out there in a white label format. So it was very easy for them to connect. It was very easy to interact with that because we are, of course, a German bank, so we have that data. We have the scoring elements in there already. And they were able to go to market very, very fast without that massive investment. So they can test it very easily, and if it works, okay, they can still migrate to their own systems and really invest that money themselves. Or they say, it actually doesn't work, we can retreat again. So again, with them, within 6 months, they were able to set this up. And the actual integration on the tech side was maybe 2 months. And therefore, there is so much more interaction happening. And they were so impressed with that they said, you know what, we're going to invest in you guys. Because we believe this is going to be the next way of doing banking. Not having to do everything yourself if you don't want to. Test markets if you want to. Why do you have to invest all that money yourself if you know you can partner up with somebody? So those are just 3 examples. But we have more than 70 different companies that we have been working with over the last 3.5 years and that are still using our products. And that just goes to show that contextual banking is something that will be evolving over the next years and something that is there to stay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rins. Happy to have your questions from the audience. Anybody would like to have at least a comment as well, potentially, about how these collaborations are done? Mm-hmm. You've seen really a couple of them on the last slide, so it might be really inspiration. So any would like to ask? Okay, I'll look at the screen. We have okay, already 3. So can your product be customized to fit to customers in different countries or regions? You can also look at here. We have the screen.
Yes, exactly. So yes and no, because on the one hand, we of course try to make the product as general as possible to make it as scalable as possible. But of course, we understand that some people or some companies need different elements in there. So we look at that, we look at what the exact request is and if that is something that we can reuse in the future for other partners as well. So different countries, different regions, they have different KYC regulations, for example. And this is then the idea of how much of the German setup do we want to copy-paste into France, or how much do we want to localize, and does the business case allow us to invest that money ourselves?
The second one, how do you adapt to local regulations?
Yeah, so it kind of comes back to the same point of, do you just do passporting, or do you just set up a whole new branch yourself? And this is where initially we will, because obviously our funds are to a certain degree still somewhat limited, we have always said we only go to do something if there is a business case there. We will not proactively go to a new country because we are very, in that sense, opportunity driven, where why would we go to Spain if we have no demand in Spain? We would only follow those different countries where there's actually demand coming from the market and they're willing to support us in this.
And we have one more. Do you provide operations ops, not just IT capabilities?
Yes. So we basically provide everything from reporting to liability elements to operations to compliance to all those kind of things we take care of. So we are really the bank. And at the end of the day, our partners are reselling our products. So legally speaking, the end customer is our customer. But commercially speaking, it will always be the customer of our partner. So as we call it, are just a regulatory parking lot for your customers until you have been able to either set it up yourself or said, I don't find this interesting anymore.
There's one more question. It's an interesting one because, you know, as a perception, is Solaris a bank? And if not, why? But I think you have the license, though. That's the,
Exactly.
that's the simply the answer, or you can add
Yeah,
to it.
that's the answer. We have a German banking license that we got within 9 months. So that, of course, helps us a lot and also brings a lot of credibility towards the market.
Ah, one more. There. Okay. Does your core business run in the cloud?
Yes. So we have a private cloud, and we're now moving over to AWS. And the reason why we didn't do that before was because the German regulator was like, Amazon, we're not so sure if the data all stays in Europe or if it goes to the US, which is a big pain point, of course, in Germany. So yes, it runs in the cloud, and we're soon going to move over to our own core banking system as well, which allows us for further flexibility.
So one more chance from the audience. If not, Rins, thank you very much for your presentation.